So remember my last video when I told you my month has been chaotic? Well, it seems to be continuing and not stopping, but that's not gonna stop us from talking about this book haul. Hey book babe! I just attended my very first book festival. It was the Tucson Festival of Books, and oh my gosh, I think I am officially addicted to going to them. I really missed connecting with people in real life, but also my people, our people like you, people who love books and can talk about them for days. I met so many incredible authors, starting with Ana Maria and the Fox. You guys, okay, I actually got a lot of romance books in this haul, and I know what you're gonna say, Joanna, you don't really read a ton of romance, but one of my favorite things about the festival was listening to all of these authors talk and really explain their book and where they're coming from. 9 times out of 10, I walked out wanting their book so much. And actually, I've seen this book around, it just wasn't at the top of my TBR at the time. I had no idea that Liana de la Rosa was gonna be there. She talked a lot about Lisa Kleypas. And if you know, Lisa Kleypas was my first historical romance. I honestly loved the wallflowers in that book so much. She specifically talked about Devil in Winter, which is making me rethink dropping it. I might pick it up, but I just love that she's like, come on, Mexicans, we've been everywhere. We are everywhere. How can you not write a historical romance with obvious diversity? The world is so diverse. I was like, what? Lisa Kleypas fan, historical romance person, and like Latina, let me go for it. She was like so sweet to talk to. I just felt what she said during panels so much. I told her like, I can enjoy white characters. I mean, I grew up with way less diverse books than we have available now. And even though we're still a long ways away, it's super nice. Still, I enjoy all the books, but it just hits different when you also see someone that looks like you and sounds like you and understands the cultural references like you. And she was like, girl, I completely get what you mean. She loves Lisa Kleypas, but she's not Lisa Kleypas. She's Latina, she's Mexican American, she has her own identities, her own culture, and decided to write one based off of that inspiration. It says, Joanna, I hope you love the Luna sisters. Love, Liana de la Rosa. Her name is like everything, but I am really excited. It actually reminds me of my favorite romance only book so far, like contemporary romance, the Brown Sisters series. Just the way she was describing the Luna sisters. The second book is out in June. Make sure you check it out, but I am so excited to read this one. It sounds so wholesome, and the second book seems to have R-rate. Very exciting. Continuing romance, we have Bet on It, you guys. Okay, first of all, this panel was an Ask Me Almost Anything panel, and let me just tell you, it got real juicy real fast, and not for the reasons you might think. There were a lot of amazing questions during this panel, and a lot of heavy questions actually, like, are authors happy that we're finally getting more diversity, and what do we think about writing in certain perspectives? And honestly, their answers were everything. Our panel was so diverse, from multiple mental health to social economic backgrounds to ethnic backgrounds. We had a great mix at this panel, and it made me really happy to see actual different backgrounds answer this question. And they answered honestly, you know, all of them said it may seem like we have a bunch of diversity, but the truth is that's not what's happening. There's still a lot of obstacles in their way when they're trying to publish. There is a lot of disconnect between editor and writer when they're not from the same background. I really enjoyed Jodie Slaughter talking about her books. I really wanted to get her whiskey book because it sounded quite scandalous, and I actually got really curious. I ended up going on this bet on it because I don't really see a lot of like characters where the MC is white, the FMC is black or Latin or anything else. And actually her and I talked about this more privately. The premise sounds really good and really fun. Not to mention Jodie Slaughter was just such a delight to listen to, and her dedication is, Joanna, I hope you enjoy this read and all the rest, Jodie Slaughter. I was actually talking to her about her whiskey book as well, and she said it's all these like wars that go on in Kentucky, but the hero of the book is Mexican American. Excuse me, like I have not seen that in this type of romance, like Bonnie and Clyde type of romance, where the MC isn't just like super brooding and terrible and awful and like mafioso. I thanked her so much for that. Can't wait to read that book, but I also can't wait to read this one. Taking a little break, we have the Guncle. I actually heard about this book from Hannah. Hannah. So Hannah was actually reading this again for the festival because she was gonna see Stephen Rowley, and it was her pick for their book club. This honestly sounds so cute, so wholesome. Again, very different than a book I would normally read. I did get to meet him at Hannah's cocktail author reader. It was a blast. Once you really get to know authors and listen to their side and everything, it really makes you curious about their work. So he just put Joanna cheers, signed it, and put like this little cocktail martini thing, which is so funny because there was a cocktail themed after his book. I think that's where that's coming from. This just seems like super cute and wholesome. Following an iconic moment, I got to meet Sara Shephard. Yes, Pretty Little Liars author Sara Shephard. It's so insane. I finally got to tell her that she freaking traumatized me as a child and that her books were absolutely terrifying. And I'm just wondering, is this an author or show that you also grew up on? Because I just feel like we all grew up watching this show unless you're like way younger. It is such an iconic time. If you have not read that series yet, you should. It's really short and sweet, and it's very different than the actual show. There are characters that we love on the show that are not in the book. The twists and turns in the book are insanity. I still think I was way more shocked in the book than I was at the show, and I'm glad they changed both, because if you read the books you would know what was gonna happen. When I told her like, thank you for traumatizing me as a child, she just laughed. So this is actually the panel that Hannah got to moderate, and as her bookish bestie I was just up there hyping her up. But that means I did get to talk to Sara way more at the cocktail hour thing. It was like a really great thing. Hannah put together an amazing event, and Nowhere Like Home is a new thriller, and you guys know I am a little bit in a thriller kick. I have 3 thrillers lined up for me, and this is one of them, and it's actually also set in Tucson. I actually got my book signed at her panel before our cocktail event, so it was really nice to have this signed already and like kind of out the way so I could talk with her later. So instead we have to Joanna, happy reading, cheers to thrillers. By the way, if you're enjoying these shenanigans and you're not yet subscribed, boop the subscribe button, support your girl, and I really hope you're enjoying this content. Coming back to the genre of my heart, we have fantasy. I did take 3 books. They were all fantasy. Funny enough, we didn't get to the other 2 authors the first day, and I just really didn't feel like lugging everything around. I flew there, I couldn't really take that much. Fantasy books are massive, but the author I was like screaming to meet was actually House of Fazal and also Olivie Blake. I took my Owl Crate edition, which first of all, when I was in line already, people were just like, what edition is this? I don't blame them. It's a stunning edition. Owl Crate really nailed this one. And because it's a special edition, it's already signed. So I really wanted to ask Blake for some advice to write in the book, which is something I haven't done in a long time. I used to do that a lot when I went to signings when I was like, you know, 12, like 15, 14. I used to ask authors to write a piece of advice or like a favorite quote in there. So she said, daydream, be adaptable, be resilient. Olivie Blake. Cute, super wholesome. I just fangirled over her. Her panel was amazing. She's such a funny person. Very honest, very back and forth, very chatty. I really loved her panel so much. And I'm actually really glad I got inside because it was already packed by the time we got there. My gosh, all the girls were super loving. They were like, we've seen her already, just go in, it's okay. I felt so bad separating from them because I like sticking with a group and I like spending quality time with friends, especially when it's like the first time I'm meeting all of them in person. But I really appreciate them for, you know, really pushing me and telling me to like stay and enjoy the panel and then getting in line for me so that I could get my book signed. So thank you guys. Like, I want to cry. Like that meant so much, and I felt so bad, but you also helped me enjoy it. Thank you. One more romance. We have Miss Beverly Jenkins. That's right. So Tiffany over at Tiff Talks Pages, she's actually the one who introduced me to Beverly Jenkins. She is literally the historical romance author. Even before really knowing more about her work, I've already seen these books, I've heard about this author, but I really didn't fully know her until Tiffany talked more about it, and just what an incredible woman she is. And I couldn't believe, like, wow, 30 years, she is iconic. And let me just tell you, I think she was my favorite. Miss Bev took no crap from anybody. Like, she was very expressive with her face. She was super funny, very honest. When we talk about editors and publishers really needing to be more diverse, Miss Bev's story really stood out to me. Her and actually Diana Quincy's story, which is also an iconic historical romance person that I know because of Tara Talks books as well. So again, just like my romance readathon Bronze Buddies from last fall really coming through. But Ms. Bev was basically saying that her editor left some notes on her manuscript, and one of them was saying that she had really bad grammar, and the phrase was on the down low. And her author said like, oh, this is bad grammar. You should say put it on the low shelf. That just, yeah, what on earth? Miss Bev was very honest with her answers. I did get to talk to her after the event because it was so quiet. We really got all of these authors to ourselves, which is so nice. So I told Miss Bev, your face expressions at some of these things, like what happened? Because let me just tell you, that panel got hot. Like there was some tea there, but maybe that's a story for another time. Like she made me laugh and it was like a great time. I had to see her in person. I had to go and experience one of her panels, and I walked out with this specific book. To Joanna, enjoy Beverly, and the selfie I actually ended up getting with her was all because Jodie Slaughter was like, run girl, go for it, ask Miss Bev. I didn't feel like bothering her, but it was really no bother for her at all. It was like super sweet, super wholesome. I just always spend time like chatting more than trying to take a photo or something. It's not always like an automatic thing for me, but I'm glad that I captured photos because they are really sweet memories to have down the lane. Next up we have A Star Is Bored. I got to meet Byron Lane also in person and chat more toward the end of the cocktail event. He is married to Steve Rowley, the author of Guncle, and he was such a delight. The very first thing he said right off the bat was, you have the most beautiful skin. And I feel like that's just so wholesome. Like it is who he is. He's just complimenting people, like super sweet, super energetic, and I got to learn more about A Star Is Bored. Byron Lane was actually Carrie Fisher's assistant for super long, up until the last couple of years before she passed, and so he ended up writing a work of fiction about that experience. And so he said most of it is true, some of it is obviously more dramatic for the book, but once more I got curious. I got the book, again a super different read for me, but I'm really excited to try this mixed bag. He wrote, for Joanna, a star and a friend, love ya, Byron Lane. So freaking sweet. I'm telling you, like you meet him and you just feel like you've been friends for the longest time. It was just a great time listening to both of them and meeting them. One last thriller, we have The Last Days of the Midnight Ramblers, Sara Tomilson. I loved talking to her. I feel like she's the author I talked to the most the whole night that we were at the cocktail hour thing. She was such an interesting human being, such a badass woman. I think we're gonna link up again in LA, which is gonna be so fun because I actually don't have this one signed. I do hope to get this signed in LA. I'm gonna make sure I take it with me since I'm driving. Sara actually used to be a ghost writer, and she probably is still a ghost writer. I can't say she's not a ghost writer anymore. If you don't know what a ghost writer is, most of the time when we see celebrity memoirs like Paris Hilton's book I've talked about, or even Britney Spears, they are not really the actual authors of their book. They hire someone to write for them, write their story, and as best as possible in their own voice, so it still sounds like them. They just don't have that skill set. They don't know how to write a book, but they really want to share their story. Ghostwriters, however, don't get credited for this. They can't say like, oh, I'm the one who wrote this or this or that. You are very hush hush. You sign your NDAs, you sign all of these things that say, you know, I'm not gonna out this, I'm not gonna share things that we've talked about. I don't know about you, I've never really heard that side of the industry. Like I knew that existed, of course. I know there's ghostwriters, I know what that means. There's ghostwriters for like songs too. This is why Eminem was out here dragging everyone with their ghostwriters. But I've never heard that side of the industry. Like how do you actually become a ghostwriter? What does it mean? What are the ups and downs of it? Sara Tomilson actually went into it a lot on her panel. And this book is actually about a ghostwriter who is trying to help this artist, this amazing celebrity, powerful woman, write her story. I got to ask her all our questions, really seeing what you do as a ghostwriter when you're doing it well, when you're really guiding the person, helping them get to a certain point in their journey and realize and really storytell. And the way she described it, I was like, sounds just like Sara. And when I talked to Sara even more, I was like, yeah, it's you, right? Badass at all costs, hardworking, all the stakes, just this really captivating story. And a lot of people also said the book itself gives a lot of Daisy Jones and the Six. And you guys know I love that book so much. So I am super excited to read this one. Really get inside the mind of this ghostwriter ghostwriter, and I think the fact that Sara was a ghostwriter is gonna make this book a whole other experience. Of course, the tiniest book on earth. Look how tiny, super cute, but if you open it, it actually does have the story. Yeah, that was the mini book haul. Get it? So you guys, we went through all of these incredible signed books, these incredible authors that I actually got to speak to. But I have to say that festival was amazing. It was intimate, it was fun, it was like spacious. Even better, it was free. So you got to really support the festival by shopping there, donating, eating there, like all the things. I really can't wait to go to the next one, which brings me to the fact that I am going to the LA Times Festival of Books. It is considered the largest book festival of the country. And this time I'm gonna remember to actually pass out book stickers. Maybe you'll see some special book stickers that I am currently creating. So that'll be really fun. I really want to make some videos on like packing for it or like giving some tips, because I already have a few people messaging me asking for some tips. I wonder if that's something people would actually be interested in watching, because I am putting together my cart and all the books that I'll be taking. You'll see more content all about the festival for a little while longer over on my Instagram if you happen to follow me on there. I hope this was fun for you, and if it was, you can boop the like button. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!